Red light therapy and infrared saunas are often confused, but really there's quite a big difference between the two. When people realize there is a big difference, the next question becomes, can I combine the two? Until recently, it was nearly impossible to do so. Red light therapy panels were not designed to be in high heat, moisture-laden environments. All of that changes with the Sauna Max Pro. Behind me, I have PlatinumLED Therapy Light's new red light therapy panel designed specifically to use in an infrared sauna. So how does this new panel perform? And if you have an infrared sauna, should you include one of these inside it? Now be sure to hang around to the end, because at the end of this video, I go through the pros and cons of this panel, and the list is maybe the longest I've ever had in any of my red light therapy reviews to date. So there is a lot to cover. Let's get into it. Okay, so first up, what do we need to know about this panel? Well, as you can see, it comes with a handy little remote, which is actually standard in all PlatinumLED products now. So I do like that. It's a simple on-off remote. You can also use the PlatinumLED app to control the panel, which is actually rather cool because you can turn it on remotely through your phone, but you can also change how it performs. Maybe you want to turn the red light off and just have blue running. Or maybe you don't want blue at all and you can disable that as well. All of this through the app. Now the panel itself is a totally new design, not just for PlatinumLED, but also for the panel market as a whole. It's something I haven't seen before. The back of the panel is pretty much an entire heatsink. That is because there are no fans in this panel. It's all made of aluminium and is designed to get rid of as much heat as possible. This is for two reasons. Firstly, the LEDs in the panel put out a lot of heat on their own. Typically you see panels with fans and big open spaces to help airflow. It's not possible with this panel because it needs to be watertight effectively, but also you're going to be using this in a high heat environment inside the sauna, hence why we have such a radically new design. It's also IP65 rated, which means it's moisture and splash proof and can tolerate temperatures up to 150 Fahrenheit or 65 degrees Celsius. Now there's 320 LEDs, 8 of them are blue, 156 are in the red spectrum, and 156 are in the near-infrared spectrum. More on this later. Now it is surprisingly heavy for its size, weighing in at 17 pounds, and it's 10 inches across, 3.5 inches deep, which is quite thin, especially when you compare it to, say, a Biomax 600, and it's 39 inches top to bottom. Now, what's interesting with that last measurement is, as you can see here, the control panel is on the top. Typically with Platinum panels, we see the control panel on the side, and the control panel itself is entirely new. I'll show you more on the control panel shortly. Okay, so let's get out my spectrometer and see exactly what's been emitted from this panel and how much power it's putting out. All right, so first up, I took a measurement with all of the lights going. Now you can see the blue, the red, and the near infrared here. Now it's tricky to get a good measurement reflecting all the wavelengths, but this will give you a rough idea of how it's broken down. So let's dive into these one by one. So first up, I've enabled blue on its own. The peak is actually 477 nanometers. It's a little bit different to the other Biomax panels I've tested. As you can see, it's starting to get into the green range, so that is quite interesting. There's only 8 LEDs with the blue lights though. Let's look at red next. Okay, so with the red, we're seeing two peaks, one at about 635 and the other with 660. Okay, so I'm now testing the near infrared. Okay, so what I'm doing here is moving the sensor around the panel, so you're actually getting an assortment of near infrared light. Yes, there's a lot at 850, as you can see there. But then if I move to another area, you'll start seeing some of that 810 or 807 as it's showing up on the meter. And then as well as the 810, you're also getting some light in the 830 area down here as well. So that means you're actually getting 6 wavelengths with the Sauna Max Pro. You're getting a little bit of blue and green light, which, by the way, there's a dedicated button so you can disable that if you don't want any blue light. You're getting 635 and 660 nanometer red light, and then you're getting 3 different wavelengths in the near infrared range. Most of this energy is going to your 660 and your 850 nanometer light, however. Now, I also measured the irradiance figures from this panel. So what's surprising here is I was expecting quite a low number. PlatinumLED have made it clear that they're using lower powered LEDs when compared to the Biomax series. However, the numbers I got were still quite surprising. I tested it at 6 inches. The peak was about 52 milliwatts over centimeter squared, and the average across the panel came out to be 41.1 milliwatts over centimeter squared. Now, yes, compared to, say, a Biomax panel, a Mitre Red, or a Rojo, or a Rouge, these numbers are a little bit down, but remember, this is a completely different device. It doesn't even have fans in it. And at 40 milliwatts over centimeter squared, some people will actually think this is a good number. The other thing to consider here is if you're using this inside a sauna, and let's say your sauna session goes for 30 minutes, if it was putting out the numbers that, say, a Biomax 600 was doing, you'd actually be getting too much light over that 30-minute period. So it works out well that the radiance is a little bit lower. Hey, so if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button, and while you're down there, hit subscribe as well. You'll be notified of all my upcoming reviews on red light therapy products. Now finally, I tested the EMF and the sound levels, and what's great here is both of those figures were rock bottom. There's no EMF and there's no sound. The reason why most panels have sound is because of the fans in it. Remember, this is fanless, so no sound. Very cool. Okay, so how much does this cost? Well, it retails for $959 US. Now, Platinum LED have given me a discount link to share with you guys. It is a link, so you have to click it for it to activate. I'll put the link in the show notes. It will save you 5%. When you click the link and go to the site, a pop-up will appear and the discount will be applied at the checkout. This actually brings the price down to $911. If you're in the States, you're going to pay about $40 for shipping. If you live internationally, expect to pay a lot more. I put a quote in for Australia and it was nearly $200 US. Some other countries were around 150, so just be prepared for that. Now, since we have the power and the price figures, I can do a value calculation. It works out to be $11.70 per watt of therapeutic red light. I need to mention that the power numbers I use do not include the blue light. I'm just looking at the red and the near-infrared light. Now, if you're looking at the red light therapy database over at lighttherapyinsiders.com, you'll see that $11 is about mid-pack. But what's interesting, even a year or two ago, anything around $10 to $13 was considered good value. Sure, now we're seeing panels under $10, but remember, this is a specialty product. It's designed to go in a sauna, and you're still getting pretty good value. As for stands and accessories, you can also buy a wheeled floor mount. This sells for $230. It'd be good if you're in a large sauna and have the space to move it around, or if you want to use this outside a sauna, because that's something else I need to clarify. This doesn't have to be used in a sauna. There's no reason you can hang it from a hook or the back of your door and do your regular red light therapy treatment sessions in front of it. Now you also get a 3-year warranty and a 60-day guarantee period. Okay, so now for my rather extensive pros and cons list. Now, as I've been playing around with this, setting it up, testing it, I've had a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts have come to mind. I mean, it's a very new product, right? It's different to what I've typically tested. So yeah, there's lots of things to comment on. So bear with me here because some of these points are quite important, especially if you are considering one of these. So first up, let's look at the pros. Now, the first big selling point is the lack of fans. You see, a lot of people don't like the noise of a red light therapy panel. That's why I often include sound measurements. That's why I've also reviewed some panels and said, don't use this because the sound is absolutely horrible. Personally, it doesn't bother me too much. However, some people want to use these as a background light, as an ambient light, or use it for long periods, a 30-minute yoga or meditation session. The fact that there's no fans means there's no sound, and it simply becomes a light. But not just any old light, obviously it's putting out a decent amount of therapeutic red light. So that is a big plus. And on the back of that, no fans means no EMF. For those of you who are very sensitive to EMF, then you'll know this is going to be great. You can even come right up to it, an inch or two away from the panel, and you're not going to be exposed to any non-native EMFs. Now, another thing that surprised me is you can still change the intensity of the lights on this panel. It's something that's becoming quite a standard now in the space, but I didn't think we'd see it in this particular product. And yes, you can do it through the app, or you can do it directly on the control panel itself. A big reason why the intensity feature is a big plus is if you are going to do a long session and you don't want to overload the body with that red light, you can drop the intensity down. Of course, you can also use it to save power if you are using it as that background light. The downside though, it's limited to 30 minutes. So after 30 minutes, you're going to have to go in and turn the device on again. Next up, I have the blue light. Now, some people will hate this, some people will love it. What's interesting though is that wavelength is a little bit different to what we've seen in other Bimaxes. So I don't know if the blue light is going to be really beneficial for acne here. But hey, the good thing is you can simply turn them off with one press of a button. And by default, the blue lights aren't even on. So you may get one of these panels and never even turn them on. I also like that it came with a handy quick start guide plus a more detailed manual. These are important to have, especially when you're dealing with a brand new control panel with a few different functions in it. Now you also get a bunch of hanging accessories with the sauna panel. At the moment, I have it hanging from a chain that was included with some screws that screw into the top. That works pretty well. There's also a door hanging hook, so you could hang it from the back of the door. But I don't know if you're going to use that in the sauna. I actually tested that, and it means the door hanging hook is going straight onto glass on my particular Sunstream sauna. I don't know if it's ideal. It did work. I suppose you could use it. The problem is it's going to stop the door from closing at the top, and it's metal on glass, so there is a bit of a safety issue there. As for other ways to set it up in a sauna, well, there is that floor mount that I talked about earlier. Otherwise, you could simply put a hook inside the sauna and use the chain to hang it from that, or it comes with these sauna mounts. Now, I guess these go through the door and then you can clip them on the back. The problem is I couldn't use these with my sauna, so I don't know what saunas these are actually designed for. If you do have a glass door you want to hang it from, you could drill a hole, though I suppose you could also drill a hole through the wood panels and set it up that way. Personally though, I just found leaning it in a corner worked best for me. There are some thick rubber feet on the back, so you're not going to damage the interior of your sauna. All right, now for the downsides. Well, the manual says it's rated up to 150 Fahrenheit or 65 centigrade. Now, my Sunstream sauna gets up to 65 centigrade. I know a lot of people actually hack their saunas to try to get it hotter. They cover the sauna's thermometer in there, or they add in extra heating elements. So I do wonder, does that mean you're going to avoid the warranty, or potentially the panel's going to stop working if you get to those higher heats? I'm not too sure. Another downside is this is not modular. You can't get two of these and clip them all together. Yes, you can use the remote and the app to control them all, which is great, but there's no bracket system to make it a giant panel. Another issue I had when I put this in the sauna is, what do you do with the power cable? I just had to run it out through the door, which means the door doesn't fully close and you're not getting a nice seal. You want that in a sauna to help keep in some of that heat. The only solution I could think of was to drill a hole out the back, run the cable through there and seal it all up. Of course, if this is going to be a permanent setup and you own the sauna, sure, this is going to be fine, though it does require a little bit of work. But for some people, they may not want to do this. They don't have the tools or the desire, or they plan on reselling that sauna later on. You're going to have a bit of an issue. You have to get the power in somehow, and ideally you don't want that door left open ajar. Speaking of actual use in the sauna, there's a couple of things I need to touch on here. Firstly, you're not getting the most effective treatment area. When you're using a panel on the wall, it's very easy to hit a big chunk of the body. You can simply stand in front of it and position yourself in relation to the panel. But when it's set up in a sauna, especially if it's a one-man or a two-man sauna, you may be limited as to how you can use it. You may only get exposure to, say, some of your body. You're not going to get the full body treatment, and you're definitely not going to be able to treat the back of your body. Well, you could, but it may be tricky. So that's something else to think about if you're looking at buying these for your saunas. Sometimes I think it's better to do what I do and actually use the red light therapy panels outside the sauna as the sauna is warming up, and then go in and do your heat sauna session. Another potential issue when combining the two is what's happening to the red light on the body when the body's covered in moisture. We know that some light reflects off the skin. If there's sweat on the skin, are you going to lose more of that light reflecting off? Potentially. How much of that light? I'm not too sure. Plus, some people say you shouldn't combine heat and therapeutic red light. This is a topic for another day and something that I'm personally still trying to get my head around. Finally, we have the control panel on here. Now, I have a really nice Biomax 900 with a beautiful touchscreen. It works great, simple to use. This control panel is a little bit fiddly to use. The buttons all make sense, and after a few sessions and cross-checking with the manual, it does work pretty well. What I don't like though is the timer. It's a little bit hard to see. And the other issue is when all the red lights are on, all of this becomes difficult to see because you're kind of looking right towards the red lights. Again though, you do have the included remote and the app, which you can also use to control the panel. Now, if you are super keen on getting some red light inside your infrared sauna, this isn't the only option. Clear light saunas, they offer a red light therapy tower. It's narrower and thicker than this, and it's only for their particular saunas, but that is one option. Another option is you get a bulb from Sauna Space. That's going to put out more infrared heat, but it's also got a good chunk of red and near infrared light as well. That's something I may play around with in a future video, so be sure to subscribe if you want to check that out. So knowing all of this, who should buy the Sauna Max Pro from Platinum Therapy Lights? Well, it depends. Personally, if you're brand new to the red light therapy space and you want to get a red light therapy product, I'd probably go with more of a traditional red light therapy panel. Your Biomaxes, you might have read, like I've mentioned before. They just offer better power, better features, and better value. If you already have some of those and you want to combine red light therapy with your sauna and you really, really want to get some red light in the sauna, then yeah, this is definitely one of the top options. The clear light panel is restricted to their panels. The Sauna Space bulb is very small, so you're not getting a large treatment area. So it really only leaves this. And this works really well. The cool thing about the Sauna Max Pro is you can also use it outside the sauna. And you could also use it in many other environments. Like I said earlier, as an ambient light, or if you're super worried about sound or EMF and you want a panel where you can come right up against the face of it and not be exposed to any nasties. Or maybe you want to use your panel outside for some reason and you're worried about dust and the odd splash of water. Again, it's still an electrical device, so you have to be careful with that. But the fact that you can use it inside a sauna is appealing. And I already know there is a lot of interest in this product. What am I going to do going forward? I'm not too sure. I personally like my Quad 900 setup, which is literally mounted to the outside of my sauna. As I turn the sauna on, I do my red light therapy session, then I get in the sauna and do my sweat session. But saying that, after using this the last few days, I have enjoyed having that panel in there with me. I really don't know what I'm going to do going forward. I guess I'm fortunate to have so many options, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts after watching this review. If you came here wanting to buy one of these, are you still going to buy it after watching this video? Or if you came here just out of curiosity, what do you think? Please leave your comments below because I myself am quite curious. Finally though, there is one big thing I still need to get my head around, and that is combining red light therapy with heat. Because when the body is exposed to the heat, you've got sweat that can stop the red light from penetrating into the tissues, but also it may not be optimal combining the two. You may be better off doing the red light therapy session in a low heat environment, and then of course the sauna in a high heat environment. Now for more on this topic, I highly recommend checking out this video. It's an interview I did with Brian, the CEO of Sauna Space. He's quite passionate about combining the two elements, and he had some interesting comments. You can check that out here.